On September 25th, journalist Michael Shellenberger dropped a bombshell article titled, "Dozens of government UFO whistleblowers have given testimony to Congress, Pentagon, and Inspectors General, says sources." I will cover portions of this article and give my commentary. You can check out the article through the first link under the description. About half of it is behind a paywall. This is Shellenberger's third article on UFOs. He's done a great job covering this topic. Let's begin, muchacho. Let's jump into some excerpts. But at least 30 other whistleblowers working for the federal government or government contractors have given testimony or a protected disclosure to the Office of the Intelligence Community Inspector General, ICIG, the Defense Department Inspector General, DODIG, or to Congress over the last several months, according to multiple sources interviewed by public. Another excerpt. But the sources, who asked to remain anonymous and are all in a position to know, told public that, in addition to the whistleblowers reporting wrongdoing, between 30 to 50 government employees or contractors have gone to the DoD's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, ARROW, to offer testimony about UAPs. So according to Shellenberger's sources, the whistleblowers comprise of people working for contractors, presumably aerospace companies like Lockheed Martin, and government employees. And I think that mixture makes the testimony more compelling versus it just being from the government or just being from contractors in aerospace companies. And interestingly, one of the points Shellenberger has made is he responds to the very common question, why now? Why is this all happening now with the shift in UFOs? And one of the explanations he provides is the legislation that protects whistleblowers from retaliation and gives them an avenue to share classified information through proper channels that they would not be able to do without the legislation that permits them to break their NDA, non-disclosure agreement. And reflecting on this, I contemplated, well, if 20 years ago that legislation was passed, would we have the same array and sheer number of whistleblowers coming forward? And my opinion on that is yes, because I think the probability is that there are secret UAP programs with forensic proof of this phenomenon 20 years ago as there are now. And so this has been going on a long time. And yes, quite frankly, I think the cover-up has been going on a long time, though it does appear with all this new pressure that it's buckling and that it may not be able to persist for all that much longer.
Certainly going public is the end of your career for, I think, these people, including Grush. And so they don't want to do that. I met with several people now, including in person, and I can tell you that their fear was genuine, and that I think it's very hard to fake the kinds of fear that I experienced. I think most of us know that most actors are pretty terrible at their jobs. Most acting is bad. It's hard to find lay people who are able to fake those kinds of emotions. So something scared them.
Let's go to an excerpt that discusses the sheer terror and fear that these whistleblowers are reported to have for being retaliated against, for coming forward. And let's not forget that David Grush went to the Inspector General of the intelligence community and committed under oath verbal testimony of being retaliated against, and that is actively being investigated by the Intelligence Community Inspector General, ICIG. But let's get to that quote from his article. Several of these whistleblowers spoke to public on the condition of remaining anonymous. All expressed fear of retaliation for sharing the information, but said they felt compelled to do so because of the unethical and illegal behaviors they had witnessed. People are scared to death, said one source. You could be court-martialed, or worse, dropped in the desert and left 6 feet under. Here's one of the most interesting excerpts from Schellenberger's article. Testimony has included both first-hand and second-hand reports of crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs by U.S., Russian, and Chinese governments. The testing of materials obtained from retrieved craft, active and ongoing government disinformation operations, kinetic military action with UAPs, contact and collaboration with non-human intelligences, and the successful reverse engineering of a triangle-shaped craft with unconventional propulsion. So that is obviously a bombshell excerpt, and Schellenberger underscores that these witnesses are not exclusively secondhand, they're also firsthand. Reports of crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs by U.S., Russian, and Chinese governments. I would assume that the witnesses that are talking about the Russian and Chinese efforts, that this is coming from intelligence reports that they've read. Then Schellenberger also conveys regarding what his sources stated, the testing of materials obtained from retrieved craft. We've heard a lot about that. Active and ongoing government disinformation operations. David Grush has explicitly gone into that and stated that that is a fact. I think that's a fact, frankly. Schellenberger's sources stated kinetic military action with UAPs. David Grush has said that there are methods in that regard, referencing efforts to take down UAP. Another sentiment from his sources, contact and collaboration with non-human intelligence or intelligences. Grush has said he wants more details on that. He wants to get to the bottom of that, and that he feels that our representatives should look into that to see what's going on with those allegations. And the successful reverse engineering of a triangle-shaped craft with unconventional propulsion. Regarding what source or sources reference that, Schellenberger elaborates on that in this interview, and I'm going to play that right now.
I have not gotten the sense from anybody I've spoken to that we have mastered those propulsion techniques, although there was some. I did speak to one person that did see one of these famous triangles operating on a different form of propulsion. This person did not know whether it was a U.S. government created craft or whether it was from some other intelligence.
Here's the last quote I want to use from the article. It's from Matthew Pines, a civilian intelligence analyst, and I quote, "It's either that dozens of highly cleared officials are in the grip of an enduring, bizarre delusion, are witting participants to a broad scale and long-running psychological deception," said Pines, "or they are relaying factual information on extraordinary covert programs." I think Pines hits the nail on the head with this, on the options that we have with all these whistleblowers coming forward. Is it a delusion that they're collectively susceptible to and it's playing out? I'm skeptical of that. I feel like that is a explanation that is highly biased and is kind of like trying to squish a round circle peg into a square space, or whatever that expression is. I think it's people that would latch on to that argument perceive that, well, that's more likely than the alternative, but I'm not convinced of that. I don't know if that's actually true. And first of all, we don't know what's more likely. We only know what's more likely based upon what we know, and how much do we know about the universe? How long have we had planes? How long have we had computers? How long have we had automobiles? How long has the scientific method existed on the planet? You know, we're not as established in our understanding of reality as we'd like to believe. His other potentiality is our witting participants to a broad scale and long-running psychological deception. So a psyop, if you will. That to me has a higher probability. But I personally would not put that as a higher probability than a cover-up of non-human intelligence craft. But that's just my subjective perception. And then finally, he says, Pines, as a third option on the table, or they are relaying factual information on extraordinary covert programs. And frankly, I think that's most probable. I wouldn't say it's a foregone conclusion. I think that would be too much. But in my perception, that is what's most likely. And I just heard that we are likely to get more hearings, another hearing. It was from Kirsten Gillibrand. That's beyond the scope of this channel. But there's more whistleblowers, I think, that are going to come forward. They're going to testify under oath. They're going to put their professional career in jeopardy, and that's an understatement. Their professional perception in jeopardy. Could it be a broad-scale psyop? Sure. I think there's a ground truth to this, and I think that will become more clear as time continues on. But we'll see. Before I let you go, the reason I haven't posted in a while is because I've just been having some concentration issues, and obviously it's hard to make videos when I can't focus. It's hard to do research when I can't focus. But that's kind of a segue into, I think I want to start experimenting with doing shorter videos that are more focused on individual components of news that emerge. So maybe a little bit less of getting information from many different sources and taking them and weaving them into one product, and being a little bit more open to just focusing on singular news stories. I want to see if I can do that, because I do have concentration issues, and I think that approach would maybe help me to do more videos. So in essence, I think you would be getting the equivalent amount of information. It would just allow me to share that information with you in smaller segments. So I want to think, I'm contemplating experimenting with that. But of course, I'm always striving to be optimistic that my situation will improve, because there's I believe optimism is the right approach. But I don't want to go any further. That's all I want to say. I'm so happy that I was able to make this video, and I'm so happy that you've watched this video. And hopefully in the month of October, my publishing schedule will be much more robust. But like I said, I like the idea of seeing if I can make equally compelling videos as I have in the past, while just giving you a little bit less information, and maybe focusing a little bit more on singular sources, and as opposed to maybe a wider web where I put it all into one video, if you will. That's the best way I can explain it. But that's it. That was a fascinating article by Schellenberger. I think the biggest takeaway is that these whistleblowers are real. This is not fantasy, and they believe what they're saying. And they've given information under oath, under the penalty of law, and they're very fearful of the potential retaliation. Is that all in their head? Is there fear of retaliation some kind of psychotic break? There's a lot of things going on right now, especially if you look at it holistically, that doesn't really make sense if this is all just some kind of big misunderstanding. But I'll leave it at that. Please do not forget to subscribe If you'd like to support this channel, you could check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You could become a patron. You could become a YouTube member. You could give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description below, or you could just slap a like on this bad boy and I'll appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.